This is 55 TV, and we are down in 55 Factory with Man-Made, who have come in on a lovely summer's day, and we're stuck in the dungeons. How are you doing?
Good, yeah, you know, going to do the Mancunian thing and say it's nice to get out of the sun.
Right, well, you were complaining actually earlier that it was too hot, you didn't know what to deal with it. Don't worry, it's only been hot in London for a couple of days, so you were sharing the same weather pretty much.
Right.
First of all, where did the name Man-Made come from?
You know, I don't really know. It just sort of happened with the band, and I've had the name for a while, and there wasn't any thought necessarily in the beginning, and then the more songs started happening and the more Man-Made sort of, you know, became the band, it kind of took on a thing of its own, and it became more of like an ethos for the band, and it didn't initially start like that. It was just a name, and so it really comes from the sort of the direction that we want to be putting forward with, you know, the kind of creating organic experiences, and you know, it's all about, like, for us as a band, it's all about the live experience. It's, you know, it's about being as organic and as natural as possible, and that, I think, is reflected in the name as an ethos, and yeah, and that's, you know, just kind of how we've grown into it really over time.
So when you formed as a band, you weren't really purposely going out to start a band. It just kind of all happened organically with the three of you then, really?
Oh, no, I'd been playing, I had a load of songs, and I'd been writing and playing on my own for a bit, just to really test the songs, and but I was always looking to get a band together. Right. And then when we got these guys, I was playing with Scott, and well, I was, you know, and for about a year, just on and off while I was kind of working, and that was me and him getting the songs together, and then we met Callum, and then it was immediately like, right, okay, this is the band, we go out and let's play them all. Right, you know.
So how long have you been together as a band then now?
About this lineup, about 18 months, nearly 2 years now, isn't it? Yeah. So, and it's been pretty non-stop, you know. As soon as we got Callum in, we had a run of shows to kind of make sure he wouldn't leave. Okay then, good. Keep him busy.
Yeah. So you're just in London at the moment then, and are you doing a UK tour as we talk?
We're doing a festival run, so we're playing, after this, I mean, we have, we're playing Why Not, Victorious Festival in Portsmouth, I think, and then we're doing Latitude, Kendal Calling, and a few other sort of inner city ones dotted around, and then I think we've got some Scottish shows at the end of it, and then as soon as festivals are over, then it's back on the road, back in the van. Right.
Let's hope the weather stays like this for all of the shows. It won't in Scotland, guaranteed. How would you describe your sound?
I always tell people we make alternative pop music, and I never thought pop is a dirty word, and it's pop music with guitars. You know, we all share the kind of same influences that are heavily guitar based, but we all also really like melody, and so it's for us, we like when we have songs that are short, and we like that we have songs with choruses, and it's something we're really proud of, and I think that is definitely a massive part of our sound. You know, if we have a song that we're sort of kicking around and there's not, you know, it's not got proper change, we just kind of ditch it, you know, because we're not just a guitar band. We like, you know, I like singing, I like playing pretty songs, and so that's, you know, so I always describe it, it's pop music but guitar based.
Okay, and how is your writing process? Are you all involved in this, or is it kind of more maybe from you?
What usually happens is, and this is why it's so much better now we've got the band and the guys around, and what normally happens is we practice and we'll start kicking around something, and then I'll have an idea, and these guys, what's great about having these guys is the amount I just throw at them. I'm like, no, play it like this, now change this, now do this. And so having these guys means I can write so much faster, because they all just jump in, and we try, and then you know what works immediately, and then we can ditch things that weren't working, and we can go down a different avenue, and then the songs happen. We write really quickly, and we write a lot, you know, and that is entirely possible just because it's always about the three of us in the room. Okay. Yeah.
And now Johnny Marr's your dad.
Yeah.
What I mean, obviously you take influence from him, but how much would you take from him, and the Smiths especially? What is that process like?
I never really listened to the Smiths, and always people find it weird, but
that's really weird.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not like it was played around the house.
Right.
you know, and it was before I was born, so obviously I know it. I know the songs that I've had to learn and played with him at shows, and that's about the extent of my Smiths knowledge, you know. But for me, it was growing up around a really supportive artistic house. So there were, with me and my sister, it was just encouragement with whatever you're going to do. And the thing that I've really picked up growing up in that environment, you know, in a kind of more bohemian upbringing, was I understand how hard you have to work if you want to pursue the arts, and how much of it is just fully committing. You know, it was great having parents that understand the concept of there's no plan B.
Yeah,
you know, and so that was it. But for me, when I was really growing up, he was in Modest Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was more the more sounds and influence were coming from that then, I suppose.
Yeah, and as a 14-year-old, we was suddenly exposed to America and Portland, Oregon, and that for me was where creatively and aesthetically it just blew my mind.
Okay.
You know, and all my favorite bands were from that town, and they lived there at the same time, and I got to see so many Modest Mouse shows, and that all those bands that were around Modest Mouse at that time, that's the big influence that I got from my dad's work. You know, and I still listen to those Modest Mouse records that he was on anyway.
Yeah.
We play them all the time.
And does your dad get involved with you at all on band? And does he go over stuff that you're putting together and give you some advice, or maybe say, yeah, this is cool, or is it just, you know, totally separate?
No, I mean, we're both really busy, so we rarely get to play together. we're rarely, you know, in the same place at the same time. So I think when we are, we always, you know, it's just, this is what we do. So there's, you know, both of us weigh in on what the other's doing, you know, because if we happen to be, you know, together at the same time, which does happen rarely, you know, it's like, oh, I've been listening to this track, or, you know, things like that. So it's that relationship. But yeah, you know, with both, when you're dealing with two touring musicians, the paths never cross.
Just working independently of each other. And
Yeah.
Great. Manchester, great music scene, has done for years. There's a big difference between London and Manchester, because London, I'd say, is really commercial, and I think it's hard for bands to be in that kind of environment so much. But I've dealt with some Manchester bands recently, and they're very free of that sense of having to be successful. It's more of a doing rather than massive achievement. What would you say on that?
I mean, Manchester is an interesting time now, because it's changing very quickly, and I think for bands the infrastructure was there, and they're trading off a scene that happened years ago, and the scene kind of died in Manchester, and obviously there were still bands doing it, but you lost that freedom to just do and not be successful, and everyone got a bit too comfortable in the music scene in Manchester. And this was when I was growing up, and it was towns like Leeds that were suddenly opened and more freed, and I think because they weren't weighed down by, you know, this mank nostalgia. And Manchester as a town now is really getting a facelift. I mean, the money that is coming in and the development you're seeing, a lot of venues are closing, a lot of venues can't do what they used to do, and I think we're in danger of losing that freedom with the change in politics that we've seen in Manchester.
Sure. It's the same in London as well.
I mean, that's the thing, being a band, obviously you travel, and, you know, we've had friends in London, and it's really interesting seeing what's happened to some of the cooler areas in London now, and we're seeing that happen to our town. I'm not saying that it's all people from London moving up and ruining it, not at all, but I think a lot of people from London are moving to Manchester.
Yeah, 'cause they can't afford to be in London.
Exactly. And now for us as a Mancunian, now we're like, well, why we can't afford to be in Manchester?
Sure.
But that's happening at every major city, and I think it's obviously I'm not just going to come here and just be like, change is never good, but and
social awareness, though, with people that actually
it's interesting.
demographically from there is good.
It's affected the scene in Manchester really, really dramatically, you know. But it's starting to come out of it now. There are bands emerging, and everyone's kind of starting to build a thing, you know, apart from London.
Good. And I think that should happen. It's not all about London, kids. What you got up until the end of this year then? You're touring at the moment for the festivals, and then what you got coming up?
It's festivals, and then it's just touring. So the record will be out after the summer. We have our first album out, and there'll be maybe...
And what month is that?
Can't say yet.
Can't say yet, but it might be in the 55 page issue number 9.
I mean, so as soon as I can say, everyone will know. But it'll be touring around that record. And for us, everything is about just getting in the van and doing it.
Great.
So it's just wherever we can play, we'll do it. I mean, that's why we started doing house party shows, because there were some towns that we couldn't necessarily play shows and make them viable, and we were like, well, these are towns with people who like to see music and they shouldn't have to travel.
Yeah.
And so we just put it out there where we were like, well, if you want us to play in your town, we'll just turn up. And that was really great, and that's really shaped what we do live, and I really like having that relationship with people. So you can't pretend like you're on a stage when you're playing in someone's kitchen. So we'll be doing more of that, and then more real shows.
Sounds good. Anybody send information of a power socket and a room to us on a postcard, and we will get to the band, and they may be playing in your front room. So do it. PO Box 55. Nice to see you guys. Look forward to seeing you live soon. We love your music, by the way, and keep an eye out for 55 page issue 9, where the boys will be in that. Nice to see you. This is Man Made.